Most people think they attract what they want, but that's not how psychology works. You attract what your nervous system is familiar with. So if chaos feels familiar, when peace comes into your life, you're going to push peace out of your life and choose what's familiar, the chaos. This is why some people prefer relationships, not even prefer relationships. They say they want a peaceful relationship or a calm person, but they get lit up and stimulated by someone who's chaotic because that's what they're used to. They're used to chaotic. But internally, or maybe more so consciously, they're like, but I want something peaceful. I want something steady. I want something consistent. But unconsciously, internally, they're programmed for chaotic situations or chaotic people. I just got asked this question a few days ago. This guy was like, Rob, dude, I'm in a toxic environment, toxic work environment, toxic home environment. How do I get out of this? How do I stop this? You say that we attract what we focus on, but I'm focusing on positivity. I'm focusing on what I really want, but I'm not getting it. And I said to him, it's because that's part of your internal programming. It's almost like a underlying expectation that chaos is just something that's normal to you and it's familiar to you. He didn't really like the answer, and I broke it down further. And this is what I shared with him, I'm going to share with you. It all comes down to leadership, right? It doesn't matter what's going on around you. Yes, your reality is a perfect reflection of what's internally going on inside of you. However, if you don't lead yourself into new endeavors, into new ways of speaking to yourself and speaking about other people and of your environment, if you don't emotionally regulate yourself, if you're not dominantly, when I say dominantly, I mean consciously, dominantly thinking positively, and you are, let's say, thinking positive for 5 minutes a day or 5 minutes out of the hour, but the rest of the time you're complaining and you're nitpicking and you're annoyed, what do you think you're going to get? We always get what's most dominant to us, what we're dominantly focusing on. So if you aren't speaking to yourself or speaking about your environment highly, if you're not emotionally regulated, if you're expecting bad things to happen, if your dominant thoughts are focused on negativity, if you're not ambitious, you will continue to get those things. You will continue to get the negative side of things. So what I mean by leadership is you always want to lead yourself in the direction of where you want to be and what you want to have and where you want to go. Easier said than done. I got myself out of a negative environment. I used to work around a group of guys back in California. I mean, it was stressful, like very stressful. And it was chaotic. And people talk behind your back. And they would tell the boss on you and rat you out or say things that weren't true. And if you had something going good in your life, it was always smashed, pushed down. It was stressful until it wasn't. And I changed a few things, just a few little dials. And I basically rose out of my environment. I grew past my environment or beyond my environment. The alternative, if you're not growing beyond your environment, is you're going to have a direct influence on your environment, which can be ideal too. However, I really didn't want that in my environment because I didn't want to be in there anyway, but I ended up actually leaving a lot of positivity. I left a positive influence on a lot of people there, to whom I still am in contact with now, and some of those guys don't even work there anymore. So I led myself into a new environment. I started to speak differently about myself. I started to read a lot more books, like Think and Grow Rich, The Magic of Believing, Outwitting the Devil. God, I can go on and on of these books, and these titles aren't there anymore in my mind. They will come back if it's necessary. But I started to read a lot of different books on psychology and positive thinking and positive expectations and visualization and language on how to like talk to yourself differently and how to regulate your emotions and stuff like that. What I changed at my old job was I stopped being around certain people, especially the naysayers, and they were just like Debbie Downers, like really, really negative. Everything, even something that was like beautiful. The sky was beautiful. Oh yeah, but you know, that's not gonna last because at 10 o'clock it's gonna get cloudy. 10 o'clock at night it's gonna get cloudy? Like, what are you talking about, bro? It's gonna be great all day. So, you know, stuff like that. So I stopped hanging around certain people. I started to just read books. I brought books with me. I would hide them in my coveralls and I would read them in certain places that I could read. And fortunately, I was able to wear headphones, so I was always listening to audiobooks. One of the books that I went to, I listened to probably over 100 times, was Parallel Universes of Self by Frederick Dodson. If you can pick up that book changed my life. Anyways, back to the story. So I stopped hanging around certain people. I started reading books. When people spoke negatively about things, I put the positive spin on things, the optimistic side of things. So you know how I said earlier, oh yeah, it's going to be sunny today. But it's going to be cloudy at 10. So if somebody was, it's easy. It's really easy to spin something in a negative. Well, I found it easy to spin something into positive. And guess what happened? Certain people didn't want to be around me anymore. Oh, you're too positive. Oh, there's not always a bright side to everything. And so those people didn't want to be around me. So I flipped the script on that. Instead of me not being around those negative people, I started to take control over what I was absorbing. I started to take control over my environment because I realized I have a direct influence on my environment. And also, I wasn't trying to do this to be annoying, but I talked a lot about what I was reading about because I found when I talked about things, almost in like a way where I was teaching, I absorbed that information way quicker, way faster. So I don't know if you know this, but when you want to learn something and become a master at it, teach it to other people. Even if you don't really know it that well, teach it to other people, because when you hear yourself talk and then you're delivering this message from what you remember from, let's say, what you read or hear, it starts to ingrain in your brain. It starts to go deeper into your unconscious mind, which then becomes a part of you. So yeah, I started to change my self-talk. I started to speak highly about myself. I even started to write notes to myself and read almost like affirmation scripts all throughout the day. I made time every single day to meditate. I literally started to change my internal state. Oh, last thing, emotional regulation. Two things, emotional regulation and my ambitions, my goals. I got super clear about what I wanted. I got super clear about what I didn't want. And I started to focus, hyper-focus on what I do want and visualize every single day those outcomes. There was another example that I just said here, emotional regulation. So being able to manage my emotions in unpredictable, chaotic scenarios, like people who are negative all the time, I used to get really bothered by that, really affected by that, like literally angry, irritated, and it would last all day. Right about when I would leave at 2:30 p.m., that's when we got off work, things started to look brighter in my mind. But like I said before, whatever you are focusing on, whatever your dominant thoughts are, that's what you'll get. So whatever you are dominantly thinking about, you will continuously get that. So I was mainly in a dominant negative frame of mind. That's what I got. So it didn't matter if I got into a positive state when I got to work. I was already for 8 hours or 8.5 hours in a negative frame of mind. So I started to emotionally regulate myself. And one thing that I consistently say to myself, even till this day, because now I'm not in a negative environment at all. I'm in a highly positive, wealthy, abundant, ambitious, supportive environment that I created. I worked myself out of that. What I still say to myself till this day is, like when I see something negative or something I don't want for myself or something I'm not in agreement with, where like not another person's opinion that I'm not in agreement with, but what a person's creating for themselves, where I'm like, woo, I'm good. I do this. I say, that's their reality. That's not mine. That's what they believe is true for them. I don't believe that's true for me. So even when people say something like, your body hurts because you're getting older, man. It's because of age. I'm 41 years old. I don't buy into that. My body hurts because I train jiu-jitsu and I train the shit out of myself. And I'm not 100% the best at recovering, which I'm getting better at. That's what I attribute me feeling sore and stuff sometimes to, not because of my age. So just like that belief about age, I'm not buying into it. I'm not subscribing to that. So you can also say, I'm not subscribing to that belief. Or you could say it internally, I'm not subscribing to that belief. So it's up to you how you want to show up in the world. It's up to you what you want to take in from your environment. And it's up to you on what you're replaying consistently in your mind, what ambitions you're going after, what your mood, what your state is in. So another turning point was realizing that I get to choose which state I am in. I don't have to subscribe to another person's emotional state. I get to choose, which is why I firmly believe No one can make me feel anything. I get to choose how I'm going to feel. So even if people are trying to bring me down, that shows me even more that I have that much more power. It shows me even more that those people have no control over themselves and they're trying to spread their crap everywhere, which makes me even more so not want to buy into that. Like, you're definitely not going to affect me with that, especially if I know you're doing it on purpose. So I took back my control over my mind, over my emotions, over my thoughts, over my ambitions, over my language. I took back that control. And like I said in the beginning of the video, two things are going to happen. You're either going to outgrow your environment or you're going to raise the tides. And where I'm at now in my own constructed environment, I am consistently raising the tides for everybody around me. It's also a very positive environment I'm in. So it's easier to do that. But back then, it wasn't positive, and it was difficult in the beginning until what I shared in the video so far, until I started doing these things. That's when everything changed for me. So like I said, two things are either going to happen. You're either going to outgrow your environment or you're going to influence your environment. The part that I think people get stuck on is when they want to influence their environment. They want to change their environment. I have no desire to change my environment, especially not now because I love my environment. Of course, I want to upgrade it, but I know that I have to upgrade myself. And I think that's where people get stuck on, is because they're trying to change what's external and they're not changing what's internal. What I do believe is more likely to happen is that when you change yourself internally, you're going to turn some people off. There's going to be people who don't want to be around you, and they're going to resist you. And what's going to happen is you're going to start looking for other opportunities. And because you're in a positive state of mind, and because you're expecting the best, and because you're using your language to support what you want, because you have ambitions and you're emotionally regulated, you're going to find opportunities everywhere. And you're going to know. Like, when you know, you're going to know. You're going to feel it. So it's going to be easy to move on. It's going to be easy to set yourself up for success. So I wouldn't focus on trying to change your environment. I would focus on changing your internal state. Now, last story here. There have been relationships that I've been in where I wasn't in alignment with the person, more so their mindset, and I focused on what I did want, because I firmly believe that I can align myself with whatever it is that I want, especially if I'm in something that I don't really care for. I'm not stressing over it. I know that the right thing is going to come into my life, or the right person. Where I was baffled was certain people who I dated ended up upgrading themselves, not because I was telling them to, but because they saw changes that I was making. And I had two people tell me they didn't want to get left behind. I thought that was pretty astounding because, and I said baffled earlier, I thought it was pretty astounding because I never mentioned to them that I wanted them to change. I started to change myself. Then they started to change themselves. So if you're around family members or friends who you can't stand, start to work on yourself. Start to change your internal world. And I promise you, things externally are going to change. You're either going to outgrow them and move yourself into a new environment, or they're going to be inspired by who you've become, and they're going to want to match that. I hope this is helpful. Please like, subscribe, and share this if you thought it was helpful. As you know, there is no ceiling.